everybody, this is Marty from owingsart.com, and today we're going to take a look at these Marabu Aqua Pen watercolor pens, markers really. These are a two-sided pen or a double-ended pen. There's a brush and a fine point on either end of this particular marker. Now this company, Marabu, has been manufacturing art supplies, inks, screen, digital, and pad inks for years and years in Germany. They've been in business for more than 150 years. And this particular set of markers comes in 4 different types of sets. I have the Metropolitan set right here, but I'll put a link to the website. Comes with these colors that you just saw up there on the screen, but there's 4 different packs. So I think there's probably 24 total colors in the line. And I'm going to start out here by using the brush end on some smooth Canson paper. Now, what I would come to find out here in a little bit is that paper with these particular markers makes a big difference. Now, you'll see here, for whatever reason, on this paper, you can kind of catch there that if I rubbed a little harder, there'd be plenty of pilling and pulling up of the paper fiber, which is something I'll illustrate here soon when I take a water brush to these, because they are, after all, watercolor markers. Now these are dye-based or water-based markers, and I believe that the pigment is dye-based because they don't really say for sure on the website either way if it's dye or what the base is. And usually if they don't say, it's dye-based. So it's not going to be super light fast is my guess, but you can see right there, I'm going to get a close-up view of this, but when I was doing the tangerine color, you could see the right there, the fabric or the fibers of the paper start to pull up, and that could be a function as much of the paper. This is not a very expensive Canson mixed media paper, so that could have something to do with it. And in a minute I'll try on a different paper right here. This is actual watercolor paper, 100% cotton sheets. This happens to be a Winsor & Newton watercolor sketchbook, and you can see there's a big difference in how these particular pens perform on this paper. So, and I compare pens like this, like the Faber-Castell Pitt markers. Those aren't water soluble. These are meant to be water soluble, but you can see here that the dispersion in the colors isn't spectacular. Now on the darker colors, it's harder to see the remnants back there, but you can see in the lighter colors, in the blues, that there's a lot of marker image left over with these. So I suppose you could, wet the tip of the marker and then use your brush that way. But I think I'd find that a nuisance after a while. I mean, if that's the way it's going to be, why not just use regular watercolor and avoid all that? But I think so. That's one of the drawbacks, I think, early on using these. But you have to sketch with a set of markers to find out what they're really like, especially watercolor markers. So let's do a sketch. Okay, that was a lot of fun actually, and I really enjoyed sketching with these markers. A little bit surprised at how much fun I had doing that. Well, let's do a little comparison to some other types of watercolor markers and watercolor media. Okay, here's the Winsor & Newton. They're just fantastic watercolor markers. I highly recommend them. Look at the dispersion there in comparison and just the colors. And I believe also that these are pigment-based watercolor markers. So what you're talking about here is potentially much more light fast color set. Also made in France, which yeah, I think makes a difference. Here's Daniel Smith. These are watercolors now. The colors are comparable only, and that's where comparisons end, because this is nothing like a Daniel Smith watercolor, but just for fun, a comparison. Here's some Faber-Castell watercolor crayons, which is kind of cool. And here's the Marabu Aqua Painters. These are water-based markers as well. I think these are dye-based too. Can look up any of these on my channel. I've reviewed them all. Now, the Talons for sure I know are dye-based, but again, here the dispersion much better with the Royal Talons than with these Marabus. And yeah, it's pretty plain and pretty obvious to see. Now, these are the very inexpensive Artist Loft watercolor markers that I just reviewed, and you can see that even these, the dispersion is better, I would say, which makes a difference. I mean, if you're going to use a watercolor marker. Now here's the Fibralo, I guess you say. This is a Caran d'Ache product. I really love Caran d'Ache products, and you can see here again, excellent dispersion, just great markers to use, really fun. And again, if you're going to use a water-based watercolor marker, pencil, pen, whatever, it should be good. All right, time to take a look at my ratings for these. Now, a couple of things right off the bat. I thought the color was pretty good, a little bit above average. Same with the vibrancy. Transparency was so-so, and the dispersion was really what knocks these down. Not that great as you saw on the dispersion. Versatility, though, good, because you've got a fine tip and a brush tip end, and the quality seemed to be decent. The caps went on nicely, came off nicely, the pens were well put together. I had no dry pens or anything like that, and the value's pretty good. Now, Wet Paint was selling these for just a little over $11 on sale. One thing I will note that I don't like about these pens, apart from the dispersion, is that they don't have the label of the color on the pen, which I really encourage product designers to do. Put the name of the color on the pen so we know. All right, all the details will be down in the description of this video. Thanks a lot for stopping by. Here's the final rating on these, a 5. I will say this though, they were awfully fun to sketch with. Well, this has been Marty for owingsart.com. This has been a Patreon exclusive. So long for now. Have a great day.